What's up? What's up? Hey, as I was working on this lesson, I thought about an investment that I pulled together a few years ago. It was a sweet little 3-bedroom house that needed about $15,000 in rehab. So I picked it up for about 54,000. It was estimated value around 115 to 120 when I bought it. But I was fired up about this thing. I mean, that was a cool little place, right? So I lined up the money with my investors, and man, I was off to the races. We got in there, we started working on it. I got my contractor all lined up. He comes in to do the work, and we didn't put anything in writing. A week later, we had our differences, and he was gone. He just walked off the job, and that kind of left me hanging high and dry. So then I had to bring in another contractor to finish up, and what should have taken like 2 to 3 weeks to finish took us a month and a half. And what should have made us about 20,000 easily ended up only making us about 5,000. And not only that, but I ended up losing a friend and an investor over the deal. But what I learned on this deal was that going into any investment, when you're desperate to put something together, can end up causing a lot of problems. And that's what I ran into on this thing. We were very fortunate to get out of it without any loss financially. But the loss of our friend, you can't put a price on that, right? So today I'm talking about patience in investing. If you didn't catch on to that from my story, right? So welcome to our weekly bite of reality. This is Faith-Based Investing Live. I'm Joshua Christensen, your faith-based investing host. And, I know that you could have chosen your time, chosen to spend your time in a lot of different ways, but you decided to choose it here with me. And man, that means a lot to me. Over on the right here, there's a little chat box, so you can ask any questions during the presentation. So don't be shy. Just go ahead and fire them off, and I'll be sure to answer those during the lesson as I can get to them. Put a Q in front of it so I know that you're asking a question. Over the last several weeks, we've actually been talking about 10 reasons faith-based investors are different than regular investors. And today we're going to be digging into number 8. We're coming in for a landing in the series, so just hang in there. We're almost done with the series here, but this is a big one. Number 8 is patience is a virtue. All right, so in Romans chapter 8, starting verse 25, it says, "But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience." Galatians 6 verse 9 says, "Let us not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we will reap if we don't give up." So what is patience? What is this concept? What is this idea? We're talking about faith-based investing, are we not? So why is patience so important to the faith-based investor? Sam Medina, he said, patience is not the ability to wait a long time. It's the ability to wait until the appointed time, and the wisdom to be productive until then. Yeah, that's so profound. I want to say that again. Patience is not the ability to wait a long time. It's the ability to wait until the appointed time, and the wisdom to be productive until then. See, sometimes we act foolishly. We invest because we're so eager to make our mark and to prove that we can do this thing called investing, right? So this can be a trap for the young would-be investor starting out. It's eagerness, it's zeal without knowledge, it's knowledge without understanding, right? So a phrase that I have become too familiar with, that I've repeated so many times, is experience is what you needed just before you got it. Hey, Julia, it's good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Um, Sometimes in life, gosh, we want to learn, right? Then we just learn just enough to get ourselves in trouble. And that trouble gives us just enough pain to slow down and ask a few more questions. Then our pride gets in the way and we race off to get ourselves in a little bit further into trouble, right? I mean, and that seems kind of like a cycle that we get into. See, that's the way as humans, that's the way we act. We just want to get things done. Got to get it done. We don't want to have to take time to learn something that could save us so much time, so many resources. But successful faith-based investors base their portfolios on patient behavioral patterns. See, some of the most successful investors I've known look at nearly 100 opportunities before they choose one. And that's a big deal. I mean, that's to look at 100 opportunities. That's a lot of deals to kind of sift through. For a lot of years, I was excited to look at 30 or 40 deals before choosing one. Even though my investments, they've borne fruit over the years, they haven't always been the best fruit. And I've had a lot of troubles and a lot of challenges and things along the way. So my lack of patience over the years has actually hurt my progress, because I kind of rushed out there. It's being very choosy about what you're investing in, being very picky. So I want to slow down and take time to study your investment strategy and align that investment strategy with your long-term, your big goal. That's really, really important. That's where patience comes in. That's where that virtue of patience comes in. So slowing down and being patient doesn't mean being slow to act and make a decision. It means that knowing how much to match the investment choice to your portfolio strategy. So rushing in with a goal of making some money is a surefire way of wasting time, resources, and possibly even losing some money along the way. So what are some of the macro big picture strategies that we're talking about? There's 4. So you're building a portfolio designed to build cash flow. You're building your portfolio designed to shelter taxes. Maybe you're building your portfolio designed to build equity. And the 4th one is building a portfolio designed to create capital. So you've got 4 different types of macro strategies. Julia asks, bonds versus equities. Can you apply patience to equities? Now you're getting into the stock market and bonds versus equities. Absolutely. And actually, I'll kind of jump ahead here to answer your question, Julia. It's Warren Buffett is kind of, I'm going to talk about him in just a minute, but he's one of the greatest investors in the 20th century. And he invests in both bonds and in equities. But he doesn't just invest in equities or in bonds. He basically, one of the fundamental things that Buffett does is he looks for fundamental strengths in businesses and he invests in businesses. So he's very patient in making sure that investment and that company that he's investing in has fundamental strong leadership, strong financials, and that the company's actually going somewhere. It's not just a fly-by-night type of company. Hopefully that answers your questions. But so I want to get back to this. I mean, we're talking about these macro strategies, right? So cash flow, sheltering taxes, building equity, or creating capital. Those are the different types of macro large scale strategies that we're going to look at. Now, within each one of those 4 strategies, you're also going to have some micro strategies, and you're going to start getting into, like, when we're talking about real estate, which is that's my area of expertise is real estate. You're going to get into things like flipping houses, wholesaling, renting. There's a BRRRR strategy, which means buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. right? So then you get into micro flipping, lease to own, redemption rights, tax deeds and liens, notes, mortgages, multifamily versus single family, assignments or seller carry, seller financing. I mean, there's a lot of different little micro strategies you can get into, right? But each one of them falls under one of the major four macro strategies that we were talking about. And I think too many times investors rush out and they want to jump into flipping, and they want to jump into renting, they want to jump into lease to own, but they don't have a macro strategy, and they end up scattered all over the place. So the point is that there's a lot of little micro strategies out there. They're a dime a dozen. Somebody will come out next week, there will be a new strategy that's introduced that nobody's ever seen before. But there's only a few actual macro strategies that you need to get a solid idea of what you're doing. And how, if you want to build a long-term successful investment faith-based investment portfolio, you've got to have that macro strategy lined out. What is it that you're doing? And this is kind of goes back to that whole Warren Buffett thing. I mean, a lot of people think that he buys stocks and bonds to make his money, but it's not about buying the stocks and the bonds. It's buying the fundamentals of that business. And if the underlying business isn't solid, then he passes on it. Does that make sense? I mean, that's really important. So McDonald's used to be known for their fast food model of burgers and fries, but then they discovered the real beauty and the real value of their business model was actually in real estate. So McDonald's owns the busiest corners of America, and they're some of the wealthy, or some of the most valuable corners and pieces of dirt. It's they own the real estate, and then they license out the franchises to the people who want to sell burgers. That's core to making any type of investment, right? So what about you? What strategy are you going to employ to build a faith-based business investment portfolio that is going to free up your time, your talents, and provide you with the treasures to bless others along your journey? I mean, this is what we're talking about, right? When you're able to align your strategy with your purpose and investment choices, your faith-based investment portfolio is going to blossom. And it's going to kick out some really cool fruit for you. And so when your strategies and your patience to match those investments to those strategies come together, man, you're not going to be short of opportunities to choose from. There will be plenty of opportunities. So you don't have to hastily jump into anything. So a couple of the pitfalls that we see, lack of patience, creating a portfolio that's out of alignment. All right. So here's some of the things that happen. If your portfolio is out of alignment with your strategy, you're going to end up with anger and frustration. You might have stress and anxiety at its height. You may have fear, or you start to succumb to scarcity that leads to this idea that you're a failure. None of this stuff is good, right? It can lead to relationship problems, narcissism, self-degradation. Can't even say that word, but health problems. I mean, if your strategies are out of alignment with your faith, then it's going to cause a lot of problems. And you don't want to end up in that situation. I've been there, and it's not comfortable, right? So there's nothing worse than working with investors who make decisions out of fear and scarcity. Man, it's challenging to work with people who are full of anger or frustration. And I've been the guy that has the anger and the frustration because I've made some hasty decisions, and I wasn't patient in some of the investments that we've made over the years, and it leads to a lot of these things. So, not only do these portfolios fail to take off, but they tend to lose steam quickly if they do take off at all. So I want to give you some words of caution. All right. If you find yourself investing in real estate, congratulations. That's awesome. It's a great place to be, but just take these words of caution. All right. Real estate is not free of its problems. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's not something that just happens overnight. You don't hit it out of the park on one deal. It's inch by inch. Inch by inch. It's that Proverb 6. You consider the ant. Consider the ant and be wise, right? So, you're going to have challenges. There's going to be things that come up that you didn't think about, and that's okay. We do our best to clear any contingencies and eliminate risk up front. We deal with the issues one at a time as they come up. Some are bigger than others, and that's okay. But I want you to stop and think about the kingdom of David. King David, man after God's own heart, right? Man, that kingdom grew out of major amounts of adversity. Yet David's ultimate focus was on honoring God in everything that he did. Now, he certainly wasn't perfect, and he didn't always honor God initially in the choices he made, but he always turned back to God upon any kind of revelation. And the promise came down that his kingdom would endure forever and that the Messiah would actually come through his line. And that's pretty amazing. We're going to deal with a lot of adversity as we're building our own little kingdoms, right? So if you're building your faith-based investment portfolio in the same way, then you're going to have glorious times of praise. And there's going to be terrible times of heartache. But if you keep your eyes on the Lord, and if you wait patiently on the appointed time with wisdom, you're going to be taken care of. Everything's going to be okay. Patience. Patience is a virtue. If you can embrace patience, God, man, just think about that for just a minute. If you can embrace it and use it as your tool to build your faith-based investment portfolio, the sky's the limit, right? This is what came from God. So I want to give you a little homework for today. All right. Make a list of what strategy that you want to employ in building your portfolio. Is it going to be for cash flow, or are you building equity, or you got tax strategies, or what strategy are you latching onto, right? Then take that list, take that strategy to God in prayer. Come up with that strategy. You're going to want to break down your micro strategies underneath that strategy. How are you going to reach the larger macro strategy? But take that list to God in prayer, and then start working on your investment knowledge around that strategy in preparation for the opportunities that are going to start presenting themselves. They've always been there, but you're going to start to see them because you're becoming aware of that strategy. That's a big deal. So guys, I hope this has been valuable time for you. Thank you so much for spending your morning with me. It's been a blessing. It always is. I love spending my time with you guys. I'm fired up to share and grow together in this journey of faith-based investing. Let's continue to work together and make faith-based investing a national movement of Christian investors. How cool would that be? Will you help me turn this into a revolution and a movement that's going to change how we invest and how we serve in our communities to the glory of God? Keep in mind, Monday is our Motivation Monday, so it's going to be a short little recording that it'll be on our Facebook page. It'll be here on our YouTube page, so you can check that out. Quick little, 1 to 3 minute little blurb that I've been throwing out there. And then on Fridays, every Friday, we come back here for Faith-Based Investing Live at 9 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. So next week, we're going to be going into topic number 9 around why we are different as faith-based investors from regular investors, right? So be sure to follow us, like us on our Facebook page, EQT Property Management. If you want to have a one-on-one time to discuss your portfolio, then send me a message at office@eqtpm.com and send me a private message from our page. Guys, It's been awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been fantastic to have you, Julius. Good to see you. Looking forward to actually, Julia. I'm looking forward to our time together as we work on your presentation and the conference that you're putting together. That's going to be awesome. So thanks so much for putting that together. Guys, thanks so much. Let's change the world together. Make it a great day.